this doesn't feel good to me, and I wanna feel good with you. So I would like for us to fill in the blank, or I need this, or I need that. But boundaries don't necessarily have to mean like I'm cutting off. It can mean I'm maintaining the connection.
But I think that you have to stand true to your story and hold your ground.
You do. Welcome back, everybody, to How the F Is This a Podcast? Today, we are going to talk about navigating family dynamics because for some of us, family dynamics can bring a little bit of challenges. For others, it can be loving. And then there's a lot of stuff that's a messy middle. So, we're going to talk about that today and hopefully give you some tips that you can use when you are navigating those things. So,
So let's get into it.
let's get into it. Do you want to start off by sharing a story of like a weird or challenging family dynamic that maybe you don't go through yourself, maybe you know about?
Hmm. A weird family dynamic. Oh, I could share a personal
All right,
one.
share one.
So growing up, I have two brothers. So I have an older brother and I have my younger brother.
Mhm.
Me and my younger brother have the same father. My older brother has a different father, but his father died when he
Mhm.
was a baby. It's not really a weird family dynamic, but more so like I would say for my brother, we used to argue. Me and my older brother, we used to like bicker and argue a lot over like dumb catty stuff. But one of the things that would come up within our arguments was like, "Oh, your father ain't this and your father ain't that." And I remember like sometimes my brother used to argue with me. He'd be like, "That's why you're not even my full brother.
Mm.
Like you my half brother." And I used to be so pissed when he said that. So I used to just go low. I used to be like, "And that's why your father dead." Cause he'll be like, "Oh, your father ain't SHIT and all this other stuff." And I'm like, "Yo, you're not gonna talk about my father and think I'm not gonna talk about your father
Yeah.
back." So we used to I would it wasn't like by the time I got a teenager, we wasn't arguing about stuff like that. But before I was like in preteen, we was definitely arguing and like throwing low jabs at each other
Yeah.
because of that.
Yeah.
So it made it like like I said in another episode, my parents got divorced when I was in fourth grade. So my older brother, that was his father figure.
Mhm.
So when that got snatched from him, and he already lost his father, like
Yeah.
it hit him a little bit different than it hit me and my little brother,
Yeah.
you know? So that dynamic sometimes would come up where like, your father this, your father that, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
What about you?
Yeah, by you sharing that story, it made me think of this time. So, one of the things I realized after the adoption episode that I talked about is that I felt that I didn't share how much my adopted mother has supported me. Like I shared about her, but she did show up in certain ways when she needed to. One of the things
Yeah.
that I shared during that episode is that I moved in with her. And I remember that one time when I moved in um with my mom, my one of my sisters who I have a really close or had a very strong relationship at the time was mad that my mom let me move in with her and not her.
Yeah.
And she left a voicemail and was like, "You let Crystal stay with you and she's not even your blood." Like she just said some effed up stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I was hurt by that. And I realized like a lot of my navigating family dynamics became when my dad went back to his ex-wife, and so I had to navigate being the stepchild. And I also had to navigate being a stepchild when my mother was or when my sister and brother's father treated me different.
Yeah.
So I constantly navigated different family dynamics and trying to figure out where I belonged in those dynamics because I wasn't a part of anything, it felt like.
Yeah.
And so that was often really challenging for me. Um, that's why I'm very big on, like, if I ever was to be with a man that has a child or if, you know, blending families is so important to me
Yeah.
and, like, having that work is really important to me because of that reason. Because I know what it feels like for you not to feel like you fit in a family dynamic or just to be messy, you know?
Yeah. No, I get that. So I guess growing up, what kind of child you thought? What was the category you fit into? Like
When I
as
was
far
growing up.
yeah. So as far as like, were you the peacemaker? Were you the golden child? Did you feel like you were the scapegoat? Like what kind of child did you feel like you were growing up in the dynamics that you grew up in with your adopted family?
Yeah, so I think it depended on the age.
Okay.
So, like, I feel like before middle school, I was a loving child. I feel like I didn't have any problems, I didn't give anybody problems. I was a really great kid. But if you would ask my grandmother, she had to come around that corner to the school. She had to pop me a couple times. You know when they used to be able to pop people?
Yeah.
She used to pop me in school. So I guess I was a troublemaker in a sense. I've always been some type of rebel.
Oh, you was a troublemaker.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
You couldn't imagine this sweet thing.
No, it actually is fitting.
No, it
It makes
don't.
sense.
No, it doesn't. I don't start any trouble, but, for that, like, I was definitely, like, the troublemaker in school. I just didn't like authority.
So would you consider yourself using these categories? So you have the peacemaker, you have the fixer, you have the black sheep. Like where do you fall at in there?
I guess
As well as the golden child, so like the perfect child.
I think I'm the peacemaker. If I had to pick one of those. Well, okay, let me ask you this question. Hold on.
So you could be multiple,
But I wanna
right? But
ask you about black sheep because black sheep
okay,
has a bad rep.
right.
I feel like when people say that you're the black sheep of the family, that means you don't belong, and typically that means you're the problem child. I do think that I'm the black sheep of my family, but not in a negative way.
Yeah, so the black sheep is definitely the child that is different.
Mhm.
It doesn't necessarily mean that you're the problem child. It just means
Yeah.
that you feel different from the rest of the children.
Oh.
And there's a noticeable difference between the interaction between the child and the parent or the guardian.
Oh, yeah, then
Um,
definitely I was the black sheep.
okay.
I think, like yeah, I'm the black sheep. I would say that I was my mom's best child. I do believe that,
Yeah.
for sure. What are you? What did you fall between?
I feel like I'm the golden child. I'm the
Oh,
favorite. I am. Like I'm the
your mom
golden
doesn't
child with the
have
most
favorites.
okay. Uh,
She told me the other day. She
yeah, of course. That's what she's gonna say. That's the Michelle Obama answer.
act like she don't have a favorite.
Yeah, but not. I would say I'm the golden child, just because. So for my dad, I'm his first child. I'm my mom's second child, but I'm also the middle child. So I feel like there. I mean, we all know there are differences between the youngest, the oldest, and the
Yeah,
middle
yeah,
child.
yeah.
And I feel like the middle child, anybody that you know that's a middle child, like just analyze them as a person, right? And the things that they're doing and just like how they upkeep themselves. The middle child compared to the other siblings are really the most solid, I will say.
I only have one friend that's a middle child, and I'm, like, quickly trying to think about her and her brothers, and I'm like, "She's pretty outstanding."
Yeah,
I gotta say.
they're solid.
Mhm.
You gotta think
She's very
the
solid.
youngest child, they
But I
get
don't know
spoiled
enough about her family to know
to know.
I
Yeah,
in comparison, but she is a very solid human for sure,
yeah.
for sure. But I
The oldest, it really depends too. Like when they grew up. So like I feel like my brother, he grew up in the 80s, early 90s. He was born in the 80s. Um, he's the oldest child, young parents, so like the dynamics was a little bit different for him. Like my parents, his parents, and my parents were, um, they were working their way up
Mhm.
to, I'm the middle child. I'm born. My parents now are, you know, they in their careers, they working things out, they ready to buy new homes.
Yeah.
Like life is different for them now.
Mhm.
The baby come everything solid at this point. We
Mhm.
gonna spoil the baby. This the last kid. We not having no more kids. So
Yeah.
the dynamics, we could all grow up in the same household, but the dynamics for us is different. Like
Yeah.
we'll probably all tell a story differently,
Yeah.
because our viewpoint of it is just not gonna be the same.
Yeah. And I'm the youngest.
Yeah.
So what does that mean about me? What is it about the youngest?
You're spoiled. The youngest is entitled. I feel like the youngest child has a
I do have
strong
some
sense of entitlement that I don't know where they get it from. I just think that they feel like, hey, y'all need to listen to me, or like I'm the youngest, so I need to get, everything because all of y'all older and y'all need to just give to me. I don't know. The youngest child is very spoiled.
I gotta look that I've never really researched and paid attention to young, middle, and all that, and so
Yeah.
that's like an unspoken rule, you feel like?
No, it's not unspoken. It's research behind it.
I never looked at it
No,
before.
there's definitely research behind it, but for me, I think like with the oldest child, it is a little bit more difficult for them because they don't have nobody to look. I mean, they have the parents to look up
Right,
to,
and maybe cousins or something like that.
but in the household, when you're the
Right.
only child, as the youngest,
Mhm.
it's different.
Yeah.
Like all
Yeah.
eyes is on you. You can't really breathe.
Mhm.
Once you get 2, 3, 4, 5 kids in the home, your parents are not really. They can't be that attentive to every
Yeah.
child the same way that they could be to that one child
Yeah.
in a home. So
So growing up with brothers, right? You and your youngest brother has the same father, your oldest brother, um, he knew your father as a father figure and y'all would argue and have these beefs. How did it or if it did, how did it impact your brotherhood, if in any way?
um I mean, I feel like we have regular kid arguments.
Mhm,
Like,
sibling
yeah,
problems.
sibling, like I feel like that's why I don't be that bothered by like arguments or disagreements with people. Like, if you argue with your siblings are gonna dog you. Okay, your siblings,
So you're like,
siblings
"I
do
heard
not
it all."
look. Siblings do not care. They
That's
will
true.
dog you.
That's true.
Y'all will fight. It would be whatever. Like you have no other choice but to make
Yeah.
up with them. When you
Yeah.
growing up, it's like, yo, where am I going?
But there comes a time when that rivalry or those, arguments become too much, and you do have to start setting boundaries with your family.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think that that's why you'll see some people that as they get older, they separate from their family or separate from their siblings because of, the past experiences that they had growing up,
Yeah.
so
I think what I realize is that boundaries play 2 separate roles, right? A boundary can be something you put up to keep uh, to cut a connection off, but it can also be something that somebody puts up to maintain a connection.
right.
Sometimes I set a boundary because I'm like, "Hey, this doesn't feel good to me, and I wanna feel good with you. So I would like for us to fill in the blank, or I need this, or I need that." But boundaries don't necessarily have to mean like I'm cutting off. It can
Mm.
mean I'm maintaining the connection.
But what happens is that, it sounds good to say everything that you just said as an adult. I mean, it's probably a
Oh,
little
yeah.
bit easier,
Yeah.
not for everybody, but as a child, like it's not that easy for you to communicate like that.
Oh,
Like you
no.
don't really know boundaries. You're
No.
figuring it out
Right.
like for years.
Right.
So if I'm in a household with 3 siblings up for, at least 16 years, all 3 of us, 15 years, all 3 of us, for the older one moved
Yeah.
out, you know, I probably haven't really learned how to develop boundaries until maybe like sophomore year, junior year of high school, if I do
Or if you
before.
even need to set a boundary. Did you feel like you ever had to set a boundary with your siblings before?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I feel like we discuss boundaries. So, like, something as simple as, like, "Yo, don't come in my room."
Yeah.
Like, that's a boundary.
Right.
Siblings don't care about that.
They don't.
You like,
They like, "I'm coming in
"I'm
the
coming
room."
in your room."
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So, I think that it's hard. It is hard as a, child and young teenager to set boundaries with your siblings,
Mhm.
and that's why it's important, for the parent to step in because the parents, you're the leader, you're the teacher. right? So you have to really sit down and navigate with your children. Like, look, this is how you set these boundaries, and y'all need to make sure y'all giving each other space. Parents don't talk about giving each other space.
Right.
They talk about, oh, y'all need to go and do this together, or y'all need to, be outside together. It's all about this togetherness. This
Yeah.
whole you make sure that you look out after this person,
Yeah.
etc. But we really need to be talking about how to give space too.
Yeah.
Because that now leads into adulthood where, you got all these people around you that's taking over your boundaries and your values and your morals, and you don't know how to navigate spaces now
Yeah.
as an adult.
Yeah. I also feel like some parents don't know boundaries, right?
Yeah.
And so they're not able to educate their children on how to set boundaries because it's unpracticed for them. And oftentimes, like, have you ever felt like you needed to set a boundary with your parents?
As a child?
Or like as now we going up. So moving from
Oh,
childhood now
okay.
into being an adult.
Yeah. Yeah. I think not with my mother for sure, but not with my father. 'Cause he don't really break no boundary. I mean, I see my mom more, I
Yeah.
interact with her more, so it's easier for her to be like to cross a boundary,
Yeah.
but for me, like, "Oh, Imma just tell her what it is, like, yo, you can't do XYZ, or I don't like when you do XYZ." And we could go back. I mean, sometimes we'll go back and forth about it, and sometimes, I mean, she'll be like, "Oh, that's not what I meant." Well, it's not about what you meant, I'm just telling you what you did.
Yeah.
And I think it's so funny when as you grow up and you become an adult, and then you have a close relationship with your parent,
Mhm.
because sometimes it's like, yo, I gotta parent you real quick. Like,
Yeah.
why you didn't think that?
Yeah.
Why did you think that was cool?
Right.
you
Yeah.
know, but I think that it's healthy to be able to have that conversation with your parents, and they be receptive, because
Yeah.
not all parents are gonna be receptive.
No, and it's also not about it's not about your intention, it's about the impact, right? Like, people are like, they do something I didn't mean to. No, it's about how you made me feel. There was a time when I wanted to parent my mother because I didn't wanna, disconnect from the relationship. I valued the dynamic, and I wanted us to, like,
Mhm.
whatever, and I was expressing how she made me feel. And then she became the victim on it. Oh,
Oh,
I'm
they love
such
to do
a
that.
bad
They love to do
mother.
that.
Oh gosh, I'm
Love to
so
do that.
sorry. My mom will cry. I'm so sorry, yada yada yada. And I said, Mom, I'm gonna tell you this right now. I'm gonna tell you this right now. I love you. But what you doing right now is now I feel like I gotta come to your aid. And I'm the one asking for aid.
Yeah.
But you have turned this into you being the victim, so now I feel like I can't even sit in my truth without now having to parent, baby, justify, whatever it is with you.
Yeah.
And I feel like that I'm not gonna be heard. And she was just like, "Well, Crystal, if you tell me you're telling me what you want me to do, but I feel like if I do it, then you're gonna think I'm doing it just because you asked me to." And I was like, that's the point. I'm telling you how I wanna be treated. The expectation and the hope is that there's a willingness for you to actually do it as my mom, and that you value this connection and you want to maintain it and nurture it. And so she tried. She's tried to call a little bit more, and I've returned that. But, like, it was a thing with navigating those family dynamics and sometimes people playing victim when you try to set a boundary.
Yeah, I think that often happens too, but I think that you have to stand true to your story and hold your ground,
You do. That's
because
true.
I mean, I've had that situation happen too, and I'm just like, well, this is, me, I'm always sticking to a fact. Like, no, this is what happened. This is what you did.
Yeah.
This is why I didn't like. Now you are taking what I said, and you're creating a whole
Mhm.
another thing.
Mhm.
And that's not what I'm talking about. So
Yeah.
like a little bit I will be dismissive, because you're dismissing what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right? You're trying
So
to
you
add you're
feel like
trying
you're
to
just
add something else to it.
yeah.
And that's not what we're talking about right now.
So you
When
feel
I
like
called it well, I called into the conversation what we were talking about. That's I think that so I say all of that to say, like, it's important, like, when we do, speak to our family about the things that, may bother us or whatever, that we really are firm to what we believe in, and our feelings, and letting them know that, and also holding them accountable. Because
Yeah.
sometimes people will try to walk out of accountability.
Yeah.
Like, no, we're not gonna switch this topic to talk about something else that you feel, before we acknowledge what we came here to talk about first.
I teach Asia that all the time. Like, I teach her that all the time. I teach my daughter that all the time because I'll say something, and then she often feels like this is the appropriate time for her to say something that I did, right? She does it often, and I'm like, "Honey, I'm not saying that your point is not valid. It is not the time. If you wanna have a conversation with me, like, we could do that, but not when I say something to you, now you wanna push it back on me." And so but I do find that to be really interesting, and
Mm,
also just knowing, like, you know, people are doing the best that they can,
yeah,
and if I am trying to if I'm trying to navigate and trying to maintain and trying to nurture a relationship, I am gonna try to communicate the boundary as best that I can. Sometimes I'll backtrack a little bit because I feel like I'm working on it, but my
wait,
compassion
wait.
be
Well,
killing.
why did you just turn 12? Because I feel like, why did you just go back to 12?
'Cause that's probably when it started. That's probably when it started. God damn it. But it probably is where it started. Like, I will, like, backtrack a little bit because I'm like, "Oh, I didn't see it that way."
Yeah,
And sometimes some people see it as, I'm not holding true to my boundary, I'm not whatever, and I'm like, I'm just interested in how you see it. But I do
yeah,
think that when you're calling something into the conversation, there is a way to call things into the conversation, like leading with I statements. I feel,
right,
it's better than saying you did. But when we lead with I statements, we put it more on us and the feeling that we had on it.
yeah,
So that's what I try to do. I try to call it in and use I statements
hmm
when I'm trying to set a boundary.
yeah. I think that's good. Yeah, I say miss, because you're being clear and direct on,
Mhm.
what it is that you're feeling, and why
Yeah.
you're feeling that way.
You have any triggers in your family spaces?
No, I don't.
Mhm.
Um, but I have witnessed, other people navigating triggers in family spaces. And of course, like, being a therapist, having clients that experience trauma, and,
Mm.
just have a lot of issues with their family.
Yeah.
Um, tri- I mean, triggers can come up at any time, right?
They could.
Even if you work on them, even if you have these coping skills, sometimes it's just they hit you so fast, you react, so quick.
Yeah.
It's either the flight freeze
Yeah.
situation that may happen. But me personally, no, I don't have any family triggers. What about you?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
I don't. I feel no. Like, I feel I took some time at a point to distance myself from my family for a while just so that I can heal some things, and now I'm in a strong enough space where I can engage. I don't get really triggered by things at all hardly anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I can have a conversation. I also what has helped me in not being triggered is acceptance.
Right.
I'm 40. So when you known people from as long as I can remember, right? And I've gained relationship with folks. I'm kind of like, oh, I know you've been on this type of time, and you ain't
Right.
going to therapy, you ain't doing nothing. So the likeliness that this gonna change is very slim. And so I have adapted, but I needed to first get myself solid so that I can even be in the space. Now I can have conversations. Maybe eventually I can go over to the house, but I had to take those steps just for that repair to happen within me so that there's a potential for me to repair within my family dynamic.
Yeah.
Despite rising societal stressors, it's possible to take care of your well being. Levels Mental Health provides compassionate care for those experiencing mental health challenges. Our holistic approach addresses anxiety, depression, behavior issues, and trauma, ensuring individuals feel understood. It's time for accessible mental health services for all. Visit levelsmentalhealth.com to learn more, schedule a consultation, or donate to expand outreach and support our community.
A lot of times people say they can't, engage in certain spaces with certain family members, etc. So they just avoid going. How do you feel about that?
I feel like do what is best for you in that moment and also give yourself some time to reevaluate
Yeah.
because just because I didn't speak to someone in my family for this season doesn't mean that season needs to last a lifetime. It could just be that the season. But there is time to reevaluate. Also, too, not every forgiveness you need a reconciliation, not every forgiveness you need to have a repair. So it's really determining how does this person fit into your life now and do you really need it?
Yeah.
One of
But
the
we talking about family though. So everybody looks at family different, right?
yeah.
So I think too, just to add on to that, like you have to identify like what's my family value, right? I think it's crazy when I hear people be like, yo, I'm not talking to my sister. Like, I don't care, like F that. I think that's crazy.
Mhm.
Like you grew up with somebody half of your life and y'all get into a disagreement that a lot of times when I hear stories like this, it don't even be anything that's like super serious.
Yeah.
And I'm like, to me, if you can't, it tells a lot to me about relationships that you'll have with anybody. If you can't repair that type of relationship that you have known this person and been around this person for all these years, and granted, you may have not even liked your sister,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you could have thought your sister was annoying or she was mean to you, etc. But the fact that y'all navigated spaces for so long and had to communicate in spaces for so long, you should at least be able to communicate how you feel and like kinda squash the beef. Like I would never walk outside and bash my siblings,
Mhm.
regardless if I talk to them or not. I just think that it's just
I'm not
tasteless.
doing that outside, but I'll be tearing them up in the house. Like, I'll bash them to their face. Like, I'll do
Yeah,
that, but I agree with
yeah,
you. But, it's so like, I had disagree with that because and maybe I disagree. You have a strong relationship with your family, so it makes sense that that is a huge value of yours. To me, I navigated and struggled through mine. So I'm a little bit more sensitive to how people view those family dynamics because I think that how you show family value doesn't just come from your family origin, right? Like I can show family value by how I show up with my daughter,
yeah,
or I can show family value by how I even show up with her dad, right? We've never been married, but like he is like my family, or how I show up with my friends. And I think that that's also the hard piece because now if someone's not able to talk to their sibling on a minor disagreement or something like that, that's one thing. But oftentimes I find like when people share with me why they're not talking to their siblings, they may share what happened today with me, but like you said, they're not sharing what the experience has
yeah,
been for the last 15, 20, 30 years or how the parent treated them differently and just that dynamic and that exchange. So I'm also very like I get sensitive about family values and conversations because I wonder if people would look at me and feel like, "Oh, she doesn't have a strong family value because I don't have a strong relationship with my family at this moment."
no,
Now, my niece, my homegirl. My nephew will text me if he need me. And when I say my nephew, he's like my brother. We're about the same age. And so, but I sometimes wonder like how I'm viewed in that sense because I don't have that.
yeah.
And it's not my fault.
But I don't think that you have to worry about how you viewed in that sense because at the end of the day, like you stated before, like we have our family by blood, but then we also have our family that we
Exactly.
curate, right?
Yeah.
Um, throughout life.
Yeah.
So I think that like for me, people that are my friends that's not blood that I will consider family, I hold those same values to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
So like even if we got into a disagreement, I'm not about to go outside and bash you.
Yeah.
You know. Now I'm gonna bash you to your face. We could
Mhm.
argue back and
Yeah.
forth.
Yeah.
We could take some time away from each other and then be cool later on.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's cool. But for me, I think that it's always important to at least repair
Yeah.
that relationship. for people that you consider like family.
I think it is important if it's repairable. You know,
Yeah.
if it's repairable, and that's the thing that I realized, like, I can't determine what's repairable for you.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't really say, "Well, they didn't do this." I can't give you the at least. Well, at least this, at least that, right? So it's like I have to see the heart of a person and then determine if those values align with mine and not necessarily attach it to a group of people in their life. And again, that's probably just me being sensitive about it because I don't know if somebody like I hear this often from people who have strong family dynamics. They say the same thing,
Yeah.
and they're like, I want a person that's like this. And I just think that like there are many reasons, a range of reasons why people just don't rock with their family. I don't think it necessarily takes away from who they are as a no, I don't think it takes away who they are as a person
Yeah.
and how they will show up in your family with you.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it does, but I think it can.
Oh,
Like, it's
yes.
not, yeah,
It's not a
it's not a,
guarantee.
yeah, it's not a guarantee,
Yeah.
but I think it
Yeah.
definitely can. I
Mhm.
mean, I've witnessed people treating other families better than their family, you know?
Mhm.
So, and my thing is this. We don't, I don't know about your whole, I may not know about somebody's whole family dynamics, how they grew up and all of that. But if you don't like the way that somebody's treating you, why treat them the same way back? So if you are going to, if you're going to continue that behavior and now, be a part of this family trauma, you're just as bad as them.
Yeah, there's opportunities to repair sometimes, for sure. There's opportunities to repair, but not all the time is it like that. Not all
No, I'm
the
not
time.
talking about repairing. I'm talking about changing your behavior.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so even if you don't want to repair, if when you go ahead and you still display the same type of behavior you don't like, then that's the issue.
Oh, yeah. I see that all the time.
Yeah, so it's like how can you still be upset at these people over here
Yeah.
when really you just like these people over here?
Because you know what? People tend, and my old pastor says this, I can't take this quote, but I think of all the time. People tend to judge other people by their actions and judge themselves by their intentions.
Right.
So I could see you and I'm like, oh, Greg showed up late to he didn't. He didn't, but I'm just using this as an example. Greg showed up late to the podcast recording. He don't care about this podcast recording. He don't care about this situation. He not taking it seriously. Then I show up late. Well, I had to do something. I had to make a call. I had to change my outfit. I give myself grace. That's that idea that people will judge other people by their actions and themselves by their intentions.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where I see a lot of people still doing those same behaviors that they see that they don't like anyway.
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
I agree.
mhm.
So when it comes to family gatherings, a lot of times triggers happen at family
Yeah,
gatherings, right?
yeah,
But family gatherings can also be like, just the moment that been waiting for the whole entire year, right?
yeah, yeah,
I could say for my family, like I just remember it would never be like how it was when we were kids,
right.
and teenagers when we all went to one person's house for
Yeah,
Thanksgiving and like Christmas, we all met at IHOP in the morning. People got extra money from aunts and uncles
yeah,
over here. Then we all went and watched the movie together, and
yeah.
everybody separated and did their own
So
thing.
cute.
But just like traditions, those things will not happen. So now, will not happen again. At least with us, right? Um,
Unless y'all create them.
so I think what becomes hard with families is that then you start your own family,
Oh, yeah.
right? So we come first cousins removed. We all hanging out, right? But now you got your second cousins removed, which will be your first cousins' kids,
Yeah,
right? And now they have to take care of their kids, and now they have a new person in the family.
yeah,
You may have the boyfriend or the husband or the
yeah.
girlfriend, wife, etc. And now they come with traditions, and they come with a whole family, and they come with a whole different schedule and a
Mhm.
whole different value of what
Yeah,
family and life should be like.
yeah,
Right? So now you have all these different dynamics trying to cram into one.
right.
It is different.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
some families are able to do it. Some families, they like, all right, it's all 100 of us now. We like, it's a beautiful thing, you know, for them to just kick it together and it be flooded. But every family is not able to move like that, right?
Yeah.
Um,
I feel myself getting emotional while you talking
wow.
because a couple of weeks ago, um my old pastor lost his father, and I went to the funeral up in New York. And the funeral service was so beautiful.
Hmm.
What I was most in awe over was how his sons spoke of his legacy. And I'm very close to his wife. She's one of my closest friends, and how they have done such a good job with carrying traditions and legacy.
Yeah.
Um, and so I know it's possible. Like when you're saying that s- families come and then like second cousin and all these things, but it started somewhere before. It
Yeah.
started with a possibly your grandmother
Grand.
and grandparents, right?
Mhm.
Came together and people started to come together. It's always this coming together.
Yeah.
And so I think that traditions can continue. And I see,
Right.
because of the family I just mentioned, them continue because someone is saying we are not going to let these traditions die. So if you wanted to like say, you know what, family, I want us to do Christmas at IHOP, just like we used to. Like
Yeah.
we gonna get that popping again. I think that's how those things continue to happen.
Yeah. Nah, I think, I mean, see, we be trying.
Yeah.
We be a little rocky on some
Yeah.
stuff, but we be trying at least like Thanksgiving. I mean, I've been holding Thanksgiving down. Like
Mhm.
people been coming. But think that you mentioned like it started somewhere, tradition, right?
Yeah.
With our great grandparents. And I just think about my great grandparents, you know, them living in North Carolina, Warrenton, and then moving to New York. And you know, we used to have big family traditions. Like even me and all my first cousins would go down
Yeah.
and stay there the whole summer,
Yeah.
come back home. Like grandparents used to cook, I mean,
Mhm.
from scratch, everything. But I think it was more so an urgency for families to get together
Yeah.
then. And I feel like people don't feel like there's an urgency for families to get together the same now.
Yeah. Why
You
do you
know,
think that is?
I think just how lifestyle was
Mhm.
then, you know, like the lack of accessibility of just all things,
Yeah.
you know. So I mean, you got to think during those times, we still had the phone that was this long
Yeah.
across the house, right?
Yeah.
Everybody didn't have cell phones. And if we did have cell phone, we had minutes,
Yeah.
you know, so we couldn't be just joning on our
Free
phone
before
and
7. You
texting
had to
on our
pay for
phone.
it. Yeah.
So just the accessibility
It's different.
wasn't there.
Mhm.
So now we have so many things that we're accessible to. It's just like, oh, you know what? I can't drive to Maryland today, but you know what? I could hop on FaceTime real quick and talk
Yeah,
to them if
that's
I want to
true.
see them.
Yeah.
Or I could text them real quick so
Yeah.
I don't have the urgency to be in spaces with
Yeah.
family if I could still curate still that
Yeah, that
relationship a
connection.
different way.
Mhm.
And I feel like that is why family dynamics struggle today.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And that's where you gotta be intentional.
Yeah.
You have to be intentional. Like, I talk to my niece multiple times a week. I have not seen her. Well, I saw her the last time I went to New York because she does my hair when I go up there,
Right.
but I haven't seen her, you
So
know?
just imagine 1991.
Oh, yeah, I would have had to see,
You had
like, we would see each other. Like, I would be more intentional. You're right. I didn't even think about that. Like, I miss my family gatherings. I
right.
miss the crap talking when we were playing spades. I used to be annoyed by it, like the amount of drinking that happens in the house and the arguments that break out. But I'm kind of like, I miss the drama a little bit. I miss my messy family.
Right.
The people that been in it this whole time, be like, no, you don't. But like, I miss just the shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, and those things to me
that curates the history, the stories. Like,
It does.
yo, y'all remember that one time
Oh my
that cookout when such and such was about to,
Yes.
like,
It does, it does, and it also allows you to continue to build that connection, so, navigating those dynamics can be hard when there's some type of challenges in them, but they can also be incredibly beautiful when you get to the other side of those challenges and you have the opportunity to repair, because repair does happen in those family
yeah.
dynamics, or at least you get to practice it there too.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
definitely. But sometimes you have those emotional flashbacks that happen,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So where it's like, you as a kid, you may not even know what's going on. It may be something that family is now bringing up that happened that's 20 years old, but whoever or multiple people are still holding on to that, right? So you have the emotional flashbacks that just may happen.
Mm.
Somebody gets triggered, now it's an outburst, and now the kids are affected, or the kids are now carrying that emotion because now it's like, oh wait, we know about this story now.
Now
Like,
we
this is
hear.
a secret
Yeah,
that we didn't know about. So now
yeah,
we know about this story,
yeah.
and now we looking at such and such like, oh, this is what you was doing, and we ain't got no business in the first
You
place.
shouldn't even know that thing.
We shouldn't even know.
Yeah.
So how do you feel like people should navigate those emotional flashbacks that they do have, especially when they're around their children?
Yeah, I think that, I think it's hard, especially if you're around your children, because if you do have an emotional flashback and you're within company, and it's a surprise, it's really hard for you to regulate unless you already have the practice on how to self-regulate. If you know that there's a possibility for you to have a flashback or something to happen while you're in the space of someone, I think proactive communication is fine. Like, depending on the age of your child, explaining to your child, like,
Mhm.
hey, this is what happens when we go here. I just want you to know if you feel like you should have them involved in it, or just be proactive and know what your exit is going to be. Hey, I know when they about 4 drinks in, it's time for me to start leaving and getting my kids and getting
Yeah.
out of there. So just really being proactive about how to walk out or learn how to breathe and regulate your emotions if you can.
Yeah. No, I think that's good. I think people do have a hard time because, like I said earlier, you got that fight, flight, and freeze,
Of course.
and we don't know all the times when triggers are gonna appear.
Absolutely. You
So I
don't.
think that sometimes it's like you gotta role play a scenario that potentially can happen,
Yeah.
and kind of walk yourself through it. Like, all right, if such and such do this, like, how am I gonna react? Like,
Yeah.
and practice that reaction skill
Yeah.
before you get into that space so that you're able to manage yourself, your emotions, and you're not affecting and impacting the other people in the family.
Yeah. And also being gentle with yourself, right? Like, research shows that when you're triggered, that parts of your brain shuts down. The executive functioning in your brain
Yeah.
shuts down. So you may not even have the ability to actually navigate through that trigger, depending on how strong of an impulse it is. And so being gentle with yourself, if you have a family dynamic and there was something that came up and it led you to say a thing, like, forgiveness, practice, all of those things play a part in that.
Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
I would say loving from a distance though too. Sometimes you have to
Yes.
know when you can't
Knowing that.
control it and when you can't control yourself, you have to love from a
And
distance.
that's what I did.
And it's okay to take your time
Mhm.
and back away.
Yeah, and
Yep.
now I feel like I can go in with more love than I would've had
Yeah.
before.
I think that for some people though, it does create that isolation can create some type of sadness,
Of course.
you know. It,
Holidays?
yeah. So it's like, how do you navigate loving from a distance?
Oh my
Right?
gosh.
What can you do when you are distancing yourself from the people that you do love, but these are the people that's also, you know, triggering you?
Gosh. Ask somebody for help. Ask somebody for help. Like, I will say to my friend, like, "This season is hard for me." And have people invite you over to be amongst their family, right?
Yeah.
And welcome you as family if you have a safe space to do that. Also, maybe even volunteer somewhere. If you don't have friends that you can go over their house, like, to get involved in something, try to find something that's going to keep you grounded in that moment and plan ahead. Like, if you know Thanksgivings are hard for you and seasons are hard for you, it's an opportunity for you to think through, like, what are some things that I can do?
Yeah.
What's gonna make me feel good right now?
Yeah. And you know how you create your safe space?
Yeah.
Create your love space.
Yeah.
Like what are the areas, what are the people, the things that you do that make you feel love, that make you want to love,
Yeah.
you know? And those are things that you can engage in as you disconnect from your loved ones to heal
Mhm.
or you process whatever it is that you need to process,
No, that's good. I like
create your,
that.
your love space.
I like a love space. I'm gonna create me a little love space.
You should create, let me know what you put in that.
I will. I will. I will.
So how do we stay connected? How do we stay connected with our family?
Mm.
I feel like
Set a schedule.
seriously, at this point, we need to set a schedule. I mean, we probably all suck at setting our own schedules,
Yeah.
but I mean, that's what we have to do. We should at least be seeing our family at minimum. We should try at least 4 times a year.
If it feels
Every
good to
quarter,
you,
I
if it
feel like,
feels good to you, absolutely. But check-ins can happen more frequently,
oh
obviously,
yeah,
right? And so for those of us that are building the practice of checking in with our family, sometimes we have to stack it against something that we're already doing. So whether it's you driving to the gym every morning, maybe you call a family member during your drive. Or if you're going for a walk, you're walking your dog, maybe you call like sometimes you have to pair it with something so you do on a
so you
daily.
don't feel like you wasting time
Yeah,
in a
like, and
sense.
so you
Like,
can be consistent, like, maybe you're somebody that cleans the house every Saturday. Maybe that's a good time to check in with one of your family members while you're cleaning for a little
yeah,
bit, and something like that. So pair it with something so that you can be consistent and
yeah.
intentional
I
about
think
it.
people have a hard time with identifying like, what am I talking about? What's our conversation gonna
I know sometimes it be the same stuff.
be? Like,
But I
what
think
did we
it's just
talk
that
about today?
I guess it's just like, well, that's a good thing. Like I was gonna say that's a good thing to think about. Like, what am I gonna talk about today? But I don't see nothing wrong with going to
Calling, not
chat
having none of
GPT,
this, or
not having anything to say, or going online and Google will tell you what are some conversation starters for a family
family.
member.
Yeah,
Like, like you could do that.
yeah.
Sometimes I just check in, Ma. I just want to hear your voice. I love you. How you doing? My mom said the same thing every time I call her. I listen to the same
Okay.
story. And I'm like, okay, Ma, love you, you
Right.
know?
Like, I know my mom's gonna call me between 7, she's always gonna call me when I'm sleep about to wake up, and I'm gonna say the same thing to her every morning. "Why are you calling me when I'm sleeping? I'm not
Right.
up yet." And she
Yeah.
gotta just start chatting.
And just
But you know
this my
what?
time.
I hop in the shower, I just let her talk.
Yeah.
I'm like, we do 100 things and get it done. But
Yeah.
yeah, definitely, I like that pairing it with something that you're already doing
Yeah.
so that you don't feel like you you have more tasks to do and you're taking
Yeah.
up your own time.
And also that you don't forget.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'm like, Dag, I haven't talked to my mom in 2 weeks. I used to talk to my mom every day at 4 or 5 a.m. because we both wake up that early. So I can call my mom at 5 a.m. We'll be on the phone for 2 hours. And so because that has not happened as frequently, then I just call her when I'm doing something just to make sure I check in with her. Make sure that she's good and she's eating and she got stuff,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Mm,
You got anything else you wanna leave for the people?
I just what would I leave for the people? I just want to tell the people, make sure that y'all checking in with your loved ones. It's
Yeah.
important. I know we all get busy. Um, especially as we continue to age,
Yeah.
and continue to experience new life and
Mhm.
engage with new people, all these things consume our time and take up our time. And we have to make sure that we are curating space and, time for people that have always been there for us.
Yeah.
The people who have made us who we are today. And we need to be able to give back at least by checking in
Yeah.
and communicating with them.
Yeah. I would say for those of you who are struggling with your family dynamics to reevaluate what season are you in, right? There's sometimes a season where you have to sit and really process and heal. But sometimes when you are done with that healing, you can enter back into the place that you left. And so evaluate that, right? If it's still the wrong time, then keep it going. But if it's not, temperature check, right? Do a little check in. Also, be comfortable enough to communicate a boundary and stand on it. Be
Yeah.
clear on what your boundary is Because not all boundaries mean we have to cut people off. Sometimes we wanna maintain the connection. We just want it to feel good for us. So, do whatever you can to feel good for yourself. If that
Yeah,
means distance, if that means go forward, do that for you.
definitely.
Have some grace.
All right. Well, we look forward to hearing about y'all family dynamics, this year. I hope y'all go to a family cookout this summer.
Invite me, please. I love a
Definitely,
barbecue.
I'm here taking all plates. I want potato salad. I want seafood salad. I want this ribs. I want everything that y'all got at the family cookouts. I want the moonshine. So just,
God
I
dang.
mean, only if you go to the country cookouts,
Oh, no, I
let
have
me know
never
about
had no
the
moonshine.
family country cookouts. But yeah, no, for real, check in with your loved ones and thank you for tuning in. See
Bye,
ya.
y'all.